Hare Krishna. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Vaishnavi Ministry of North America, I'd like to welcome all of you to our Bond of Love series, which will be continuing today. I'm Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi here in Gainesville, Florida at Krishna House, and I'll be interviewing Her Grace Kusha Devi Dasi, who's in Honolulu, Hawaii. Welcome, Kusha Devi.
Hare Krishna, Dandavats, all of you beautiful Vaishnavis. Hare Krishna. So honored to be able to talk to you about Srila Prabhupada.
And I'm also feeling very honored to be here today to be able to talk to you about your experiences with Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada, our father, our spiritual father and preceptor and savior.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada. So shall we begin?
Yes, I just would like to say that I'm here in Srila Prabhupada's quarters in Hawaii. It's one of Iskcon's Prabhupada Memorial Tirthas. So to be here with Srila Prabhupada, he's here in the background with the original Panchatattva painting that Srila Prabhupada used to touch the feet of Lord Chaitanya to his head every single day. You can see them in the background here. Oops. Left and right are different.
By the way, Kusha Prabhu, you're the temple president there in Honolulu, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, Kusha's just an amazing devotee, amazing Vaishnavi who's done incredible services over the past, how many years? Almost 50 years?
51.
51 years of service to Srila Prabhupada. She was, well, Srila Prabhupada asked, she played a major role in establishing the first Tulsi Devi in the Western world and outside of India. She was working with Govinda Dasi and cultivating Tulsi Devi there in Hawaii.
Jai Shri and I have to give Jai Shri, she was senior to me.
Okay, so it was the three of you.
Even in those days, if you joined the temple 6 months before, you were senior. And you gave a lot of respect to your seniors. So I give a lot of respect to Govinda Dasi and Jai Shri. Govinda Dasi was training us, but Jai Shri is very important senior devotee to me.
And also, wasn't it Srila Prabhupada asked Govinda Dasi to get some Gornitai deities made? And you made the first clay deity of Lord Chaitanya?
Yes, I had never sculpted anything in my life. And I have never sculpted anything since. But for some reason, somehow or other, I was deputed to sculpting Lord Chaitanya. So there was one original deity made out of clay, and Brishni, who was I think the department head at the University of Hawaii in sculpting, or very high up. Govinda Dasi somehow got him to come and make molds from the deities. And even though he was iconoclastic to start, he became a devotee after doing the service to Srila Prabhupada and Panchatattva. Became a very devotee.
A very powerful service.
Very powerful service. So there were many of us. In fact, I would say, because the first deities were made out of paper mache, when we used to go door to door, if they wouldn't give us anything at all, they would give us their old newspapers. You know, if they wouldn't give us fruit off their trees or something, we would say, well, how about you give us your old newspapers? And they would always give us their old newspapers. So all the people in Hawaii that got newspapers pretty much contributed to the making of Panchatattva.
Wow.
So yes, they got qualification. They did their first service simply by donating newspaper.
Wow. And you've also done a lot of service in India. You played a major role in establishing the temple at Radhakund. I mean, at Vrindavan.
I was on the board of trustees, and I worked with Dina Bandhu and Daivishakti Mataji, and in establishing that temple there. It took us 14 years to build it.
Wow. I just think it's sweet that you played such major roles. You sort of had a good balance between serving in the Western, on the preaching front in the West, and also serving in India, during Krishna's the Holy Dham. So it's
well, nice. Srila Prabhupada said, my spiritual master asked me to go to the West and preach. And I'm asking you to preach to the Indians.
Wow.
So I took that very seriously. I've always loved, even since I was a little girl, I would get really excited when I would meet an Indian or see an Indian. I would get really happy. Probably something to do with the previous life. They used to make fun of me, actually, because I would do that. I'd get all excited.
Well, all right. So then let's talk a little bit about Srila Prabhupada, our beloved founder Acharya. What's your favorite memory that you have about Srila Prabhupada?
It's hard. It's sort of like any memory in regard to Srila Prabhupada is sort of like biting into a sweet ball. It doesn't matter which side you bite. It's all delicious. and there, it's like, so that's, but I would say that all the memories that were around how Srila Prabhupada really appreciated the second generation, the children. Anything to do with the way that Prabhupada treated the children, from giving out the cookies. At one point, one of my favorite memories, I have two actually, and one of them, it's very simple and small and sweet, is that when Prabhupada would come home from his walk, then he would come into the temple room and he would bow down, and then he'd take Charnamrita and he'd sprinkle it onto my son's head, the wash water, and his wash water, after taking Charnamrita. Now that, as a mother, I would be feeling absolute ecstatic symptoms that how much mercy my child was getting, how much mercy I felt that I was getting. And then there was another occasion in Mumbai where, and it was also a special favor on my son. Every single day, Srila Prabhupada and my son would exchange garlands. My son would teeter up and give him a garland, and Prabhupada would take one of his garlands off and give it to my son.
Every single day. Like
every single in Hawaii, garlands are easy to come by. They're easy to make or have easily available. So that was something I felt strongly about. Even when I was in high school, I used to make a lei every day for some reason. I'm not exactly sure, but it must have been part of the DNA too, that I just was habituated to that. So, but here in Mumbai, my favorite pastime there was that Srila Prabhupada, there's so many too, but the sweetest pinnacle for me personally was every morning. Srila Prabhupada was actually very ill, and so every morning they would bring him downstairs in a palanquin. They would actually carry him downstairs, and he would alight from the palanquin, and even though the temple wasn't very far away, they would drive him in the ambassador. And every morning, Gopal Krishna Maharaj's son would ride on Srila Prabhupada's lap. And one morning, he wasn't there. And so my son started to clamor like, I want to go with Prabhupada, I want to go with Prabhupada. And I was like, oh no, I'm nobody, like, please, quiet. And Prabhupada heard. So he said, come on. And naturally, I couldn't contain my ecstasy. I was so overjoyed. And
Prabhupada's lap, riding in the car.
Prabhupada's lap, and Prabhupada was stroking his sika so gently and so sweetly, kind of stroking and twirling. And I ran at top speed to greet them at the temple, but that has to be kind of like an all-time high, for a mother. Yeah, that was really special.
It reminds me of the pastime when Krishna returns to Dwarka and the queens don't go out to embrace him, but they send the sons. It's like, as mothers, we feel the happiness that our that our children experience, you know, and we
Absolutely.
feel that when our children are blessed, we are doubly blessed.
Yes, doubly blessed. It's the multiplication of pleasure. It's we can enjoy ourselves, and that's one time one is one. But as soon as we can relish through others, the bhav of others, can relish the blessings that other people are getting from the guru, that's one times zillions. You know, if we can feel, instead of feeling envy, which is kind of unfortunate way that we are feeling competitive or whatever, instead of relishing what they're enjoying, and if we could do that, our whole life would just be one joyful Krishna conscious existence to relish Krishna conscious pleasure of others.
Not just in relation to our own, you know, children, but all devotees, you know, new
devotees. All devotees. Like in India, there's a thing when someone is doing the puja, then everyone will touch the shoulder, and there's this link of people that like a chain, and they have the concept. It's almost like an electric shock. It'll go through the whole line of people. They'll all experience a collective bhav. So that's why these big festivals, congregational Krishna consciousness, you get the collective bhav of others. So it multiplies, the ecstasy multiplies. So we're so fortunate. I know right now during COVID, it's like, where has all the congregation gone? You know, it's like here where I feel like we're kind of an outpost in a lighthouse, just keeping the light alive, you know, just waiting for things to improve and the congregation to return. We did have a nice Nityananda Trayodasi. We had about 65 people. And on, you know, Govardhan Puja, we had about 80, you know, Advaita Charyas, we had about 40, but we haven't, you know, and I'm really looking forward to Gaur Purnima because we're starting to open back up again. And
that's very good considering
pleasures, getting to relish the pleasure of the Vaishnavas, and serving the Vaishnavas. That's the whole das, that's the devotional way.
Yes. So Kusha Prabhu, you are so fortunate to have a lot of association, a lot of personal association with Srila Prabhupada. How did you feel when you were in Srila Prabhupada's presence?
I would wonder what he was thinking. I would be wondering what he was feeling. I would be wondering how I could please him. I was always amazed. Any little movement, would study him, and I would sketch. Not an easy person to sketch, actually. And I was madly in love with the bow of his lips and the way that his nose, the Bengali nose, like I would study him and like memorize the way that he looked. And sometimes he was not pleased with us. And sometimes we would get the sauce, which is really, I'm just remembering another memory that's favorite, but it's the sauce memory.
Go ahead. Please.
And it's what you would call, over time, the sauce memories become nectar. It's like a good wine. As it ages, as it matures, it becomes more valuable. And the other thing about it is you never forget it. When you have a sauce memory, you might forget a lot of good, relishable, enjoyable experiences, but when you're given the sauce, and the other thing about
it makes an impression.
The thing about the sauce is the purport or the import of the sauce is it starts to reveal itself more and more in your psyche over time. Like, whoa, Prabhupada knew this and he knew that. You get to understand how much Srila Prabhupada really understood about us, more than we understand ourselves. That he looked right into us. And so you had this feeling like of being in the presence of pure wisdom and love. And the sweetness of Prabhupada, the sweetness, but then there's this other juxtaposition of feeling so unqualified and having him be able to see right through us and all of our weird little conditionings. Like when I was getting my name, I had this whole big thing about, oh no, I don't want a long name. I don't want a name like Gulab. I'm really particular about the name. I'm going to have to mute my ringtone. There we go. You know, I had all these desires in relation to what kind of a name I would get. Mm-hmm. And Prabhupada did more for me than satisfy all of what I had begged for. I even had in mind what kind of bead I wanted, and he sent it from India. Wow. Without me knowing, without him knowing my desire. So Prabhupada made you know he knows you better than yourself. He named me Kusha, and that was because we had just finished growing Tulsi, and I was really into, I'd taken botany at the university, and I was really into, I wanted to find all the sacred plants, and did they have Kusha in Hawaii? And they didn't yet. And I was going to the university to try to find out about Kusha. And Prabhupada was in India, and when my name came as Kusha, I was like, oh my goodness, Prabhupada knows.
Prabhupada know?
He knows what I've been seeking. He sent me the actual beads that I wanted, the Mridanga shaped beads. He gave me a short, sweet name that not only was short and sweet, but made
to what you had been working on. And
yes. Now the sauce memory was that I was cooking for Srila Prabhupada, and I was in a lot of anxiety because I was going through a very difficult time in my life domestically. And my baby was a year old, and I was going through a divorce and co-wifery. And so in cooking for Srila Prabhupada, I oversalted. Oh boy. And I didn't know that you were allowed to taste. I had no idea. I was only taught you never smell or taste. And so I never thought in a million years to do such a thing. So the next morning, Prabhupada had me use no salt. He says, I can add the salt, no problem. So the next morning in class, he used the oversalting as in class. You can imagine. I was like, you know, hunkering down like, oh no, like but he took that and he used it in Krishna's service in his preaching. And he said, over endeavor is not good for Krishna consciousness. It's just like over salting. And I mean, frankly, it is this whole idea of over endeavor, how to have fine balance in our devotional service so that our bhav remains joyful. But if we don't push past the pain, like even if you're working out in the gym, there's no gain without pain, like at Nityananda Trayodasi, for example, I was in the back because we were trying to make all the plates up, so that because of COVID, you wanted to keep 6 foot distancing, and they were individual, like carry out trays. A lot of them had names on them. So we were trying in a half an hour to get 65 plates made. So we were pushing really hard and we were jamming, and so we were raging on the seva. It was like so ecstatic. You know, so that's not over endeavor. That's like raging on the seva, and it's fun. It becomes so ecstatic. But sometimes you can't keep up that pace, you know, and sometimes, you know, the bhav is also really important. And so how we can do a lot of service if we maintain the right bhav. So that's a very fine thing. So Prabhupada said, you can, like he told me, he said, I can add, if there's too little salt, it's not a problem. Just add a little, then it's fine. But if you put too much, it's ruined.
You can't get
So
it
he
out.
said, over endeavor can ruin everything. And it says in the scriptures that trying too hard for something, so we as devotees, we often neglect our body. We do different things. It's like kind of chronic devotee disease is we work really hard for Krishna, and sometimes we forget about taking care of our bodies, and they are important vehicles by which Prabhupada said the main pillar by which we execute Krishna consciousness. And so this becomes like a lifelong thing, how to balance relishable, pushing it, devotional service so that you really do feel the ecstasy, and also making sure that we maintain the body nicely. It's very important.
Yeah, that's a very important point.
It's one that we devotees wrestle with.
Definitely, yeah, and it always needs to be adjusted, as we go and our life circumstances change.
It does.
Like, you became a devotee when you were very young. You were 17. You must have been like out of high school or something, right? Or
yeah, I was actually in my first semester of college. My birthday's in December, so that I was like one of the youngest in my class. I couldn't move into the temple until I turned 18. My parents wouldn't let me because they figured there was only certain reasons you could leave home, and that was to live in a dormitory and go to college, or get married. And I had that. Neither was something I was doing. But I wanted to live in the temple. So I pushed really hard about it, and my parents finally, even after 18, I was trying to get their blessings, and they finally said, all right, go. And then they said, if you do, we'll never speak to you again. Whoa. Of course, that didn't last. It was all of 2 weeks. My mother was 2 weeks. She held it for 2 weeks. My father was 2 years. He didn't speak to me for 2 years, but hey, he got over it too.
So what was it? I'm curious. What was it about Srila Prabhupada that convinced you to, even at the risk of losing your family, dedicate your life to Prabhupada and to continue to do so over the past 51 years?
Well, okay, the summer of '69, I met the devotees May 1st. And in 1969, I went to that Jimi Hendrix concert, and I was wearing a sari, which was really kind of strange. And so people were saying, not strange, I mean, I liked it. I was going to take Hindi at the university. I wanted to go. I told my parents,
before you met the devotees, you were wearing a sari?
Yes, I told my parents, if you send me to India to go to college, I'll study what you want me to. And if you send me to college here, I'll study whatever I want, And they thought I was completely different. They didn't quite get it, like why? And they said, no, we don't think it's a good idea. You have to go here. So anyway, I was taking Hindi at the university, Hindi, botany, art, all the things I wanted to take. And so I met the devotees May 1st, but I didn't really, that's all I did. I met them based on the people were saying, hey, your people are over there, because I was wearing a sari. So I went over there, and and I chanted and I danced, and it was fun. And we have one Ashram Maharaj, he's like my godbrother, and we met the devotees the same day, not knowing each other, and we moved into the temple the same day. We were coming 7 days a week. They had a teeny little temple. And so they wouldn't let us move in until they got a bigger temple. And as soon as they got a bigger temple, we were there. So we're God's siblings, I mean, in a true sense of the word. But I had read this magazine it was a March magazine that there was an article that was to depend upon Krishna the cow and the land. And I wanted that kind of life. I believed in that kind of life, a meditative life, living depending upon Krishna, the cow, and the land. And I'd read Autobiography of a Yogi and seen the picture of Krishna and said, oh, listen to that. Krishna, to the name. Krishna, like just, I said, I've never heard any word that sounds anything like that word. Krishna, it sounds delicious, just so beautiful. I couldn't even believe just the sound of it. And I said, I'm naming my first name, this sound, I need to hear it more.
Wow.
And so the day I graduated from high school, Shivani and I, she became Shivani later, we hitchhiked to the airport and we caught a plane to the Haiku Meditation Center, and we spent the summer of '69 in the Haiku Meditation Center doing Lone Rot. It was 3 months. And then I went back to go to college. But during that time, I read Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And I had a dream of Prabhupada. And I didn't really, I said, he's my guru. Yeah, that's all I can say. There was a guru there, but I knew Prabhupada was my guru. I was certain from the dream. And later I understood the dream more because he was surrounded by these fellows wearing orange, carrying sticks. And I didn't get the sticks part until later. So that's what hooked me. Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, that which I've wanted to live this Varnashram Dharma lifestyle, and because of our movement being a preaching movement, I've never quite gotten the opportunity to do that. But that was something that really attracted me. And I also had a desire that for a while I wanted to be in some kind of heavenly location and become enlightened. And then I realized, no, better to be enlightened and be able to go to hellish conditions and help people become God conscious. So that was Prabhupada's program. So I accepted, because it was something I finally understood in my own self, that if you could be tested by being in a situation that's challenging and still remain equally disposed and Krishna conscious, this is what my goal was. So it's 51 years later, and I'm still challenged to try to come up to that original intention. I'm definitely not a pure devotee. What can I say? But I have to say that the relishing of Krishna consciousness, it's a beautiful life, and to see, like, I've been with my father when he was in a coma and through different challenges that he's been through, and I saw the conditioning that he had. And we have conditioning of going to Mangalartik, singing and dancing, seeing the deity, having a routine life of Krishna consciousness. We're being trained to go to where Krishna is. So, I really appreciate that. Why would I want to go somewhere else or do anything else? I want to go be where Krishna's pastimes are taking place, and this is the training grounds. This right here, Krishna conscious temples, to live in the association of devotees, this is the place to become Krishna conscious so that we can go be with Krishna and serve him.
Yeah, so inspiring. So did Srila Prabhupada, how did he engage you in service? Did he give you any direct instructions?
Well, I got to make him clothes. Yes, I did get a few instructions. I remember when he came from Japan and someone had given him a beautiful, beautiful set of, it's like silk satin. Oh, so beautiful. And so I made him a dhoti kurta and the uparna. And he, and I didn't realize, because we had been sewing out of patterns, but they just, Nanda Kumar gave me Prabhupada's kurta and his bead bag so that I could just use them as a pattern. So that was a big first for me, making a pattern off of clothes. And so I got to do that for Prabhupada. I got to cook for Prabhupada. I got to do his laundry. I still have stickers that I took out of his dhoti. And I would, it's part of my prayer. It's like, oh, if I could stick to Prabhupada and not be a thorn in his side, you know, if I could stick like these stickers are sticking to his dhoti, but still be of service and please Srila Prabhupada, then my life will be successful. So the menial service of the pure devotee, washing his socks, washing his clothes, ironing his clothes, sewing his clothes, cooking his prasad, these are the kinds of things that I got to do for Srila Prabhupada. Besides all the service that he's given us, worshiping the deity, raising his children, you know, serving his devotees, you know, these things are going on all over the world. The original seeds that came from, the Tulsi seeds, we got 3 different sets. One set didn't sprout. Another set was given by the Wadamols. It wasn't quite the right, it wasn't sacred basil. The real seeds that actually sprouted were from Srila Prabhupada's hand. We used to dry but green bananas for him for banana flour. One of the things we used to do is during mango season, package up mangoes and send them to Srila Prabhupada wherever he was. Doesn't matter where he would be on the face of the planet. We would write on it, photographic equipment, fragile. So
Don't
that they
those mangoes.
very carefully. And one of those mangoes Prabhupada received in Mayapur, and I think Shakti Mati sent that box. Prabhupada ate one of the mangoes there, and he said, this mango is very, very good. Take the seed and plant it. And that seed became a tree that only gave lots of mangoes in Mayapur and was only recently taken down because of TOVP to build the temple there. But that tree that came from those mangoes that we would send to Srila Prabhupada wherever he was, you know, that kind of thing, little personal endearments, you know.
It must have been so satisfying for you to go to Mayapur and see that tree.
Yes, I heard from that he gave the seed to Tapamoya. It was actually Shakti Mati who told me about that Tapamoya got the seed, and Prabhupada told him, he became Tamal Krishna Baba later, he's passed away a few years back. But he planted that seed that Srila Prabhupada instructed him to plant this seed.
Wow.
It's interesting because you find out the stories, like later on you'll hear like the continuation of the story. Like one story I wanted to talk about Prabhupada, and I think it's like where Prabhupada saved us, you know, where he was our protector. I wanted to talk about that. I found out later more about the pastime from other people that were involved in it. And
that happens.
Oh, yes. In fact, I heard one story that the puffed rice story where the stewardess that grabbed the puffed rice from Prabhupada's plate became a devotee. She became a devotee. That stuff is just far out of the mercy of Vaishnavas.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us about your experience with Srila Prabhupada at Kumbh Mela and how Srila Prabhupada stood up for the women?
Yes, he did. That's when Srila Prabhupada saved us. Kumbh Mela was one of the instructions that Prabhupada gave us, because when we arrived at Kumbh Mela, it was kind of late at night, and because they had added 2 cars on the train, our cars were like away from the they were away from the train station. They were 2 cars down. And so we had to take our luggage, and we had too much luggage actually, because we were cooking for ourselves, because Prabhupada said, if you want to be healthy, you cook for yourself. So no matter where we were going, we would have some kind of stove set up, and we didn't eat anything that anyone else prepared. We always cooked for ourselves. And getting to Kumbh Mela and having that situation was a little rough. We had to get up kerosene stove. But so we had like one trunk that was the kitchen trunk. You can imagine. So anyway, we got there, and when we got to Kumbh Mela, it was different than it is now. Boy, it's fancy now. We did have yurts, and there were straw beds on the ground, and you just rolled your sleeping bag out onto the straw mat. It was cold because it's in like January, February. It was January, and it was very cold. I'm from Hawaii, so it was really cold for me. I'm not accustomed to cold, and I hadn't been accustomed to cold. I'd never moved to the mainland yet. Oh wait, no, I guess I had, but in California. So during that, when we got there, Prabhupada, he instructed, he said, because they didn't have enough, they had not brought enough food to feed everyone. He wanted us to feed everyone at the Kumbh Mela. And so he reorganized everything. It's like we were at the end of the line, far away from everybody. And Prabhupada sent us, he organized parties, and he organized a party of us ladies. There was Kaushalya and Shruti Rupa and Palika and myself and Govinda Dasi and Arundhati. And he sent us out to preach and bring people back to the camp to feed them and hear Krishna consciousness from Srila Prabhupada. So that was really exciting. He wanted us to bring the people home. And he wanted to feed everybody. That was really important, to feed everyone. So everything got rearranged and big cooking started to happen. Now, we were there for a week, and Prabhupada's health he never actually went down to the river. He had buckets of water brought up so that at the special time, it was 11:27 in the morning, he took that bath. It was the auspicious moment to take bath, and he took bucket bath. It was pretty scary that going in. I tied my son to me because it was a Vaishnav mosh pit. It was he could have been separated from me, and it could have been a disaster. But I lashed him to me. So in the time that we were leaving, during leaving time, there was all this political hubbub going on, and I'm not going to say who it was that was trying to convince Srila Prabhupada that we women were not important. And our space could be better used if they put some important devotees in that space. We had a first-class coupe right next to Srila Prabhupada, right, and we were at every stop, because we followed Srila Prabhupada around India for 3 months, and at every stop, we would we would go out and buy some fruit or something and send my son in to Srila Prabhupada to give him some offering and stay connected to Srila Prabhupada. So as we started to hear that this whole thing was going on, it was Mr. Gupta, who was the head of the train station, who had added on the 2 extra cars for Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, we couldn't have gone. Everything was booked. There was no trains, no planes, no automobiles. Everything was booked. So special mercy. Prabhupada, the other thing that was far out about that was, on the way, Govinda Dasi remembered that Prabhupada told her about this Kumbh Mela. He said it was the most auspicious in 144 years, this particular Kumbh Mela. And he said, I will take you there. So here we are on the way to Kumbh Mela with Srila Prabhupada. So we could understand that Srila Prabhupada had Vak Siddhi. He had whatever he said to Krishna's ears, that came true. We had not planned, okay, there's a Kumbh Mela, we're going to India now. No, we had this she remembered as we were on the train going to Kumbh Mela. So now we're getting ready to leave Kumbh Mela.
I was just thinking how unlikely it is that the manager of the train company is going to add 2 extra carriages on the train just to accommodate, some latecomers. But yeah.
Well, Abhiram knew him. He was coming to the temple, and so Abhiram went and visited him and asked, could you help us? We'd like to go to Kumbh Mela. Prabhupada wants to go. So he made all arrangements, and he actually traveled with us. He was quite
sweet.
Yeah, he was a big, important man, but he traveled with us. And he told us what was happening, that they were trying to take our space.
Wow.
And we were kind of terrified because we had no idea how we would get out of Kumbh Mela. We were traveling with Prabhupada. That was our protection. That gave us an understanding of where we were going, what we were doing. We were always in the association of devotees. We had no other plan.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh no, what's going to
Totally
happen?
dependent on Prabhupada.
Lord, please save us. And Prabhupada said no, because I heard from the devotee actually later, who apologized, I might add, that Prabhupada said, they are the most important devotees.
Vivo.
They are the most important devotees. They will not be taken. Their space will not be taken. They are the most important. We had in our coupe, we had Palika would stay with us. There was 3 of us and 1 child. So we fully utilized the space.
That's amazing.
That was Prabhupada saving us once again.
Yeah, Prabhupada's so kind. All right. And so that happened when you were very young. Now, how has your relationship with Srila Prabhupada deepened over the years?
Well, now that I'm older, and I've heard this from a lot of us, I'm about to be 70, and it's like, oh my goodness, like Prabhupada got on the Jaladuta and came to the West at this age when everything's going ouch, ouch, ouch. When the body is not what it used to be, you want to do this and that with it, but it's deciding to do other things. It's like that Prabhupada embarked on this huge adventure at this age to save us fallen souls. Now that we're this age, it's amazing that he came to a place where everybody said, what? They're demons, and what will you eat? All of these things, like, you're an old man, how will you do this? And he came and he spoke English to us with okay, this story, we heard this when we were young. But now that we're old, it makes where I'm more impressed now that I'm old, that I'm this age, that he did all of that at this age. It's when you're a wild, young adventurer, like you'll do anything. And it's not that big. It's like, yeah, whatever. You're eternal in that body. You just never feel that anything's very fragile. But at this age, the going out on that kind of a limb at this age, the import of that sinks deeply within us. And I've been in many situations where people don't speak English in India. I live there, and you do kind of accept this situation of not really understanding what's going on around you. It's okay, I'm kind of retarded, whatever. But Prabhupada spoke to us in English. He wrote in English. He wrote, and then he set out right away to translate. He wanted it to go far and wide into all the languages. Mercy that he came to speak, came to share in a foreign place. If you think of it, all the other saints like Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha, they all preached in their, all the avatars, they preached in their neighborhood, to their constituency in their own language.
That's right.
And Prabhupada went, name one other person that went so far out of their comfort zone where no man had been before, and with a case of books on not a comfortable voyage. To talk in a language, and in a sense, go to hell. Like I always used to pray, and oh, please let me go serve Prabhupada wherever he's having his pastimes. And then I heard one of my godbrothers say that he asked Prabhupada, where will you go next? And he said, Patala. And I went, oh, oh no, like, okay. I used to pray Queen Kunti's prayers, and I used to pray, and I'm starting to rethink everything, like, because how much can we tolerate? You know, Prabhupada tolerated so much, so much. And again, like, he would just get on a plane, get off a plane, and just assume that time zone, like without a jet lag conception. And meanwhile, you know, we're all elated. I get to Vrindavan and I'm like, oh, I can get into it. On the fourth day, I'm dead as a doornail. I'm on adrenaline for 3 days, and the fourth day, there's no way I could fake it for a second. But Prabhupada was transcendental to time, transcendental to, it didn't mean he didn't suffer. It didn't mean that he didn't make a lot of sacrifices. It makes him greater that he did.
It's amazing how he gave us such a clear image of what the transcendental platform looks like, of what pure devotion to Krishna looks like, you know, and utter selflessness.
Practical.
Yeah.
Practical.
Very practical. Real acharya.
Couldn't fake that until you made it. It's not possible.
So how about us, the next generations of devotees? We, you know, you had so much association with Prabhupada, and many of your godbrothers and godsisters did, or at least had some kind of chance to. But for us, you know, it's like, you know, we don't have that opportunity to associate personally with Srila Prabhupada, to get direct instructions, to do personal service. So how important is it for us to develop some kind of a personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada?
The merciful potential of developing that relationship with Srila Prabhupada through his books and his instructions, and those who are reflecting Prabhupada's instructions, the Guru Sadhu Shastra principle. He's given us the law books for the next 1,000 years. Can we not associate with him? How can we not? I mean, but to associate with gratitude, to associate understanding the legacy that he's given us, to associate understanding how much he did in such a short period of time in terms worldwide for the entire earth planet, how he changed the destiny of mankind on this earth, how things happened around him, how the Iron Curtain fell and the Berlin Wall was taken down, and what has happened because of Srila Prabhupada's presence here on earth, just as Mother Earth was lamenting at the disappearance of Krishna. Oh, I cannot feel his footprints on my surface anymore. How will I survive? Still, that Vipralamba Bhav, that humble position, and still hearing about the pastimes of Prabhupada, the pastimes of Krishna, taking in that mood, whatever Krishna consciousness is, we can apply that same Krishna conscious concept of being in separation of Krishna and being in separation of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is accessible. That was the thing about Prabhupada. He was accessible. He is accessible. He also told us that the grandfather guru is more merciful than the guru. So you have him as grandfather guru or great grandfather guru. That's even more merciful. Like my mother is now a great grandmother. I am a great grandmother.
You're a great grandmother.
Grandmother. And my little grandchildren, it's just all juicy love, love, love. That's all it is. Juicy love, love, love. It's no, well, you know, I can see this thing developing in their nature that might need to be none of that. It's all just love. So why not avail ourselves to the opportunity of having just pure love coming from our grandfather, great-grandfather. Ooh, did you see that? There was light that came up. Like, it's almost like the light was on. I wonder if it was from the computer. But anyway, to get the mercy of Prabhupada by chanting the names of Krishna, by reading Prabhupada's books. By chanting, we get realization. By reading Prabhupada's, chanting, we're getting all that realization. And by reading Prabhupada's books, we get confirmation of the realization. Prabhupada's mercy is unfolding in our heart every second. That relationship is guaranteed. It's there. It's there. And so and just like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, we just had his appearance day. And on the appearance days and disappearance days of all the saints, they're accessible. We can meditate on them, pray to them, ask them for guidance, special mercy, and they give it to us. So I'm just feeling a little, my knees are a little cranky right now, so I'm kind of wiggling around. Sorry about that. To try to adjust a little bit of cramp in my knee.
You're good.
Prabhupada never had to do that all wiggly platform stuff. He was always so graceful, never like me, all cranky bodied and everything. Prabhupada, the motions of his hand, he had long golden fingers, and his skin was fine, like molten gold. He was beautiful. Even in his old age, he was beautiful, shining, effulgent. People, my great aunt saw a picture of him and said, wow, he's very, he looks very illuminated. That spiritual energy, it was recognizable to people who on a spiritual path. She was a member of Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society and very much involved. She took me to my first yogi lecture at the YMCA.
Nice. It sounds like you had some good mentors in your life.
Yes, my great aunt, very, very special being, very special. Favorite relative, actually.
Apart from what you've already mentioned.
What's that?
Apart from what you've already mentioned, what are the things that you're particularly grateful to Srila Prabhupada for?
So much. This life, everything from getting up in the morning to being able to immediately think of Krishna and get all excited about, I get to sing and dance at Mangal Arati. That we just start the day in such a wonderful way. I call Mangal Arati the Kartik of the day. There's seasons in the day, and Mangal Artik is like, you can make so much advancement during that time. Why sleep through it? Why not get up and relish singing and dancing? I love that Prabhupada has given us his program of singing and dancing first thing in the morning. And I think it's healthful too. It's so good for our health to be able to sing for Krishna. I was talking to Parvati, who's no longer with us, and she was talking, she had so many conditions. She had brain surgery, heart surgery. She ended up passing away of cancer. Wonderful Vaishnavi. She was saying how her doctors, when she would talk about her lifestyle to the doctors, some of the doctors were saying just by that singing and dancing in the morning, it's really kind of a pranayama yogic process that Prabhupada's. It's not like we have to do a separate thing. If we sing and dance for Krishna, it's beautiful. It's extremely beautiful. The worship of Tulsi, the reading of the scriptures, even that Prabhupada had the girls give class. Like for a long time, Jayashri and Shakti Mati and I and Mandri, we used to study like anything because the girls gave class and we would memorize all these verses and everything. And there came a time in Krishna consciousness that we weren't giving class anymore. So we kind of quit studying a bit and quit memorizing. Yep, and I did. I quit memorizing the verses. And now that I'm giving class, I'm forced to study and I love it. I absolutely love it. I love studying. I love putting together the presentations. I enjoy it, but I have to have an application for that activity. I have to be able to give class, to be able to, except for there was a period I was really sickly, and studying was the joy of my life. I would study Bhagavad 3 hours a day because I couldn't do anything else. And it was just, it's like, doesn't matter what condition of life you're in, you can do service to Krishna. Prabhupada has given us such a lovely life, even if the body is not operable. You can still do Mansi Seva. There's no stopping us. Prabhupada has given us the solution to every single problem, no matter what the problem is. Birth, death, old age, and disease, real problems. Why wouldn't I be grateful to Srila Prabhupada for that? Of course, you would be really grateful to anybody who would solve all the problems of life. And just the other day we were reading Nama Chintamani by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and in it was talking about the different types of people. Materialists, they're into bodily pleasure, and the Gyanis, the Karmis, are into like pleasure in the future. They're saving up their pleasure. They're doing karma yoga so that they'll enjoy later on. And the Gyanis are simply trying to avoid it altogether. And I went, oh boy, I can relate to the Gyanis. Simply trying to avoid suffering, as a tendency. I'm just trying to avoid suffering altogether. But for the bhakti yogis, it's just blissful no matter what. It's like everywhere you turn. Eating is a Krishna conscious activity. We can eat our way back to Krishna just by honoring prasad, and everybody has to eat. So there's a way for everyone to start their devotional service, especially anyone who eats. We can give them prasad. So this process is, even my dad, who actually said, I hate Krishna because he took you away from me. I took that to mean that he loved me very much. I didn't really, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, Dad, you love me that much? Wow. He said, I hate India because you could really die. It could be, it's a dangerous place. Wow, Dad, you really love me. This is the male way of saying I love you. It's like, I didn't take an offense. But in the last days of his life, Prabhupada blessed him like anything. He had Tulsi, he had tilak, he had Jamuna Jal. The Yamadutas left because of the Jamuna Jal on his mouth. He was so grateful. We talked about reincarnation. He had something to die for because he wanted to have a self-sufficient farm, which my mother could never quite leave Hawaii to go and do. And I said, so get it ready. You'll die, you'll take birth, you'll get that farm you always wanted. So he's a materialist, you don't have to have your goals interrupted. You can carry on. This belief in reincarnation can even give hope to the materialist that, hey, this broken down body isn't going to get me what I hoped to achieve. So I'll take birth again and then go ahead and get that farm ready. So even my father was joyful in dying because of Prabhupada.
Wow, that's amazing. Maybe due to his love for you, he'll take birth in Iskcon and start a self-sufficient farm community to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's dream for that.
Why? He always had these books on the coffee table with farms circled, big farms, big ones. And then he always had all these American Indian coffee table books with the way that the American Indians did things. So, he was kind of studied in kind of natural type of things. So, that's a hope. I can only hope that would happen. I didn't imagine that. So thank you for your mouth to Krishna's ears.
This shows how, like you were saying, Krishna consciousness it's so beneficial. It's just beneficial to anybody who in any way comes in contact with it. And even if as devotees we do, the lifestyle is in general so joyful, but even if we do have some difficulties, even if there is suffering in our lives, I was just talking with a friend about this yesterday. Even when we're suffering as devotees, we're still blissful because it just makes us take shelter of Krishna more. and experience his loving reciprocation, his care, his protection all the more. And
Prabhupada also, there was another point that Prabhupada protected me because I was in the co-wifery situation, and that was really a big thing. Prabhupada protected me at that time. It was important. I think we're finished, though. It's 10 o'clock here.
Yep, saying 3 on my computer.
Okay, so do we have a minute for me to say something about that?
Sure, yeah. I think it's an important topic.
Just for posterity, yeah, because we didn't really touch upon that, and that is important to me, the co-wifery issue. Prabhupada, for me, Prabhupada said that this is not our philosophy, and he told me that you always live in the association of devotees and don't associate with people who aren't following. So I was asking him, what is the etiquette? I'm in this co-wifery situation, and Prabhupada said, this is not our philosophy. So, there were so many opposing perspectives on this, like I'm supposed to be serving my husband or this and that. But my situation, I had to immediately follow Prabhupada's instruction. And so the temple president sent me to another island in Hawaii. And close to the farm there, I set up my little situation there and proceeded to get ready for Prabhupada to come to the big island. And so he was going to stay in my place. And I had that place ship shape. It was super, super, like the floors were polished, ready for Prabhupada to come at any second. But he saved me by telling me not to associate with my husband. So I didn't know. I was completely confused. I had no idea. There's no divorce. It was difficult, and I felt very much ashamed because no one in my whole family had ever been divorced. And now, I'm a devotee, and there's no divorce, and I'm divorced. So,
on Srila Prabhupada's Twitter, the Srila Prabhupada instructed you.
Yes, Prabhupada simply said, don't associate with him. So,
yeah,
I knew, if Prabhupada says something, that's it. It's just simple. Cuts through all the confusion. All the confusion.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear about your life and your experiences, and just see, what a blissful and determined and well-situated Vaishnavi you are as a result of, fully taking Srila Prabhupada's instructions as your life and soul, having no hesitation, just following Srila Prabhupada's instructions, following the process that Srila Prabhupada has given, and how that can lead everyone, as it has done for you, to just a beautiful, blissful life, with the brightest future of going back to Godhead, or going into the service of Srila Prabhupada, wherever he is.
One of the things I always say is, what I lack in intelligence, I make up for in determination.
Yeah. And then Krishna carries whatever we lack. So
sure does.
He gives the understanding. So we'd better wrap this up, Kusha. It's been wonderful conversation. You've shared so much valuable wisdom with all of us. And thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into Srila Prabhupada and your relationship with him, and how all of us can have a wonderful relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And I'd like to also thank all of our viewers out there. I can't see you, but you can see us. Thank you so much for coming, for being with us in this special time, being able to learn from Kusha Baba's experiences. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
And all glories to Srila Prabhupada's sincere followers.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vande